Hello, everyone. We are now on day 4 of our Science of Sound unit. So, if you go to your Google Classroom, you have day 4. Today, we're going to find out how instruments make sound. The Google slides that we have, again, you can print them out, follow along. You can follow along with the video by listening to it and looking at your slides at the same time. If it were me, I'd print it out just so I can have them for our future um, Quizlets or your post tests, whatever you got. Okay, so today we're going to talk about phones. Phones, not the kind of phones, well, I guess the kind of phones that you would ring, but these are different kinds of phones. You know how in English you have homophones and those kinds of things that sound the same. That's kind of what we're working on today. So we're working on things that sound different. So now we know what sound is. We know what vibrations are and why those are important. We know how they work, so how they get in your ear and how you hear. We know 4 different types of sound waves. We know how we can see those waves, called an oscilloscope. And we know what frequency is and why that matters to the musical universe. So today, let's talk about phones. Okay? How instruments make sound. So, quick review again. Side waves are called by vibrations. Vibrations are small back and forth movements. Anything that vibrates can make sound. Sorry, that was too quick. Okay, so how do instruments vibrate? That's a very good question. Every instrument in the world falls under one of 5 different kinds of phones. So we have a membranophone, a chordophone, an idiophone, an aerophone, and a lamellophone. So why do they use the word phone and what is all this about? So phone actually comes from the Latin root word meaning sound. Okay, so telephone, sound through telegraph, that kind of thing. So um, phone comes from, like I said, the Latin root word meaning sound. So let's talk about that. A membranophone. Okay, so we know that the last part here, phone, means sound. So this is going to tell us how it makes the sound, membranophone. So sound comes from a vibrating membrane. That's pretty easy. Membrane, membranophone, or a skin. Okay, so if you want to put it in a more musical text, you can say percussion instruments. Okay, so drumsticks, bass drums, snares. These kinds of things have a head on them. You see the head on them? And if you whack them with the drumsticks, it vibrates. We're going to see that here in a little bit. They're really fun. Okay? It vibrates. And that vibrating membrane is a membranophone. Okay? This is going to kind of give you the inside scoop as to what that looks like. So do you see how when they hit it, it shakes? That is the membrane portion of the membranophone. That vibration is shaking that drum, going through the air, shaking the molecules in the air, and then getting in your ear, and then it processes through your brain that says, hey, that's a drum. Pretty interesting, huh? I think it's pretty cool. Okay, so you can, as I said, you can see the tops of the membranes vibrate. Very cool. All right, so a chordophone. Again, that phone word makes phone. So sound comes from a vibrating string. This one is a little bit weirder, but if you look at it in the contents of what chordophones are, ukuleles, guitars, auto harps, pianos, banjos, harp, a bass, a violin, a cello, all of these things can play more than one note at one time. If you play more than one note at one time, it becomes a chord. I know we studied that earlier in the year, but just to remind you, more than one note played at a single time is a chord. So if you, oops, no. So if we back up here, so phone, chord. So these are, again, these are instruments that can play more than one note at one time. So chordophone, sound from more than one sound, basically. So several sounds. So anything that has a string that vibrates. You guys probably thinking, Miss William, what is an organ or a harp? How is that a chordophone? A harpsichord. How's that a chordophone? Well, if you've ever looked inside of the piano, there are strings inside the piano. So when you hit the key, it vibrates that string. It is still a string instrument. Okay, let's take a look. Before we move on, you can see the string vibrate on the violin. Look at that. Very interesting, right? So you can see at one point that there was more than one of those notes playing at one time. That is clearly a chordophone. Pretty interesting. An idiophone. This one doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Um, phone, again, meaning sound. Idio, I guess, is some sort of root word meaning body, but I'm not really sure. So sound comes from a vibrating body. Okay, so maracas and these gyro, the fun little shaker things that we have in class, and cymbals. All of these are idiophones. Idiophones are things that shake themselves. So, like a maraca, the beads on the inside, they actually shake the body. Cymbals, we're going to check a cymbal out here in just a second. You can see the cymbal vibrating. It's pretty cool. Check that out. You see how it shakes? They even put water on top of it so you can see it better. The whole thing actually shakes, vibrates. That's pretty much the gist of it. If you want to watch the rest of it a little bit later, this guy on this YouTube channel does a lot of slow motion water instrument jump set stuff. So if you want to go at some point and you want to look at his stuff, you have the link to this video in your PowerPoint, and you can click on it and you can go follow him on YouTube. It's very interesting stuff. Okay. Next thing, aerophone, sound that comes from a vibrating column of air. Aerophone, air sound, air sound. Okay, so these are all your woodwind instruments and your vocal cords themselves. Okay, so any wind instruments that you can come up with. So flute, that's what I play. Trumpet, that's what Dr. Winland plays. Tubas, trombones, tenor saxophones. All of these instruments make sound from a vibrating column of air. But the only way that that works, particularly brass instruments, is if we start with our lips. So the next one, the next slide that I'm going to show you, kind of shows you how brass players, it's really funny to watch. But if you watch, his lips are buzzing to create that column of air. So he is buzzing like he would into a trumpet or a tuba. Check it out. Now, when we look at that at real life, it doesn't look that slow. It's actually pretty quick. But your body kind of does that. Your body does that. So it's a slow motion lips buzzing. That's exactly what a trumpet player does when he's playing. That was more like a tuba because it's real loose, but that's exactly what happens. So aerophones, things that make sound through air. Lamellophone, there are not many of these. Lamellophone, just say that word, lamellophone. What do you use the most in your mouth when you say that word, lamellophone? Your tongue, right? So sound comes from a vibrating tongue. There are only a few of these. Not many have a lamellophone feature. Not many of these have tongues. Most of the instruments that used to have tongues or of the such are now like string instruments. Okay, so that this is called a marimbula. So if you watch the marimbula, you'll be able to see when this guy plays these different tongues and how they vibrate when he plucks it. Check it out. You can see when he plucks them, they vibrate a little bit. Okay, marimbula is a lamellophone. So how does it work? Every instrument falls under one of those five categories. Membranophone, a vibrating membrane, such as a snare drum or a bass drum. Chordophone, vibrating strings, such as a ukulele, a guitar, or a violin. An idiophone, vibrating body, so a shaker or a cymbal or a gyro. An aerophone, which is a vibrating column of air, such as saxophones, flutes, and trumpets. And a lamellophone, or a vibrating tongue, such as the marimbula. Okay, so five different categories of phones, and you're going to be doing a whole bunch of them in your Quizlet challenge. Okay, so if you go to your classwork, go to day 4, Quizlet challenge, click on that, take the Quizlet. By the end of it, you're going to be a phone expert. Then do today's Think About It on the Flipgrid and take a day to kind of process everything that you've learned because tomorrow is going to be your post test. Take some time, study. I'd rather you not use the notes, but if you get kind of stuck and you have the notes handy, you can use those, okay? So I hope that you guys learned a whole bunch from this unit. I know I've certainly enjoyed teaching it. I absolutely love the Science of Sound unit. So please let me know if you have any questions. Remember, you can always send me a private comment, not a class comment, but if you click on it, should be a little box up here. If you click on it, go to private comments. Send me a private comment if you have questions about anything. I'll do my best to answer you. Um, have a phenomenal rest of your week, and good luck on your post test tomorrow.